Hi everyone, I'm here today to do a review of this. This is my custom SaberForge ASP system Saber. ASP standing for Adaptive Saber Parts. Basically the gist of it is once it's open to the general public, I funded this on Kickstarter. Once it's open to the general public, they'll have a site up. You go in, you select your emitter, switch, body, pommel, and then you're able to select other optional pieces as required, such as if you want sound and an LED, you can get that. Blade plugs, blades. For this sucker, I went for the full package. It's got sound, it's got a cyan 12 watt LED, and the thing that's really cool about this is you basically assemble the saber yourself. Kind of gives you that whole Jedi experience kind of thing. A couple things though. With mine, I made the mistake of trying to put the chassis that has the sound card, speaker, and the battery holder in through this end of the hilt rather than through the pommel end. And that ended up with me, and it took me a while to realize I was doing it wrong. So I ended up, the first time putting it together, unscrewing these grip parts. And that may have loosened them, because they would slide along the hilt here. I have since super glued them down, so that should not be an issue until the glue comes loose again. But I'm not sure if that would have been an issue if I hadn't unscrewed the grips in the first place. So that may be a design flaw of this particular hilt piece, or it might be my fault. I'm not sure. One thing that I know was probably my fault is this right here is not, this is my blade retention screw, but it is not the blade retention screw that came with this saber. It had a much more, smaller screw that would fit in the hole, and it would be basically invisible. Kind of, here, I'll show you. My SaberForge Prodigal Son has a retention screw like that. Basically, it would have been the same thing, but I either stripped the screw, or what I think is more likely, stripped one of the, because of how this shroud is made, I stripped either the outer shroud or the inner shroud, the threaded hole for the screw. I solved this basically by getting a bigger blade retention screw, which honestly doesn't bug me because I kind of like the bigger screws to begin with. I think it makes them more, I think this is a lot more secure than a little tiny screw, but that may be just an opinion. I have no idea how factual it is. Another thing that I had trouble with whenever constructing this was the switch, and as you can see, the switch is not inserted properly, and there was no way for me to insert it properly. It simply would not go down all the way. I have yet to be able to fix that, so I have just simply let it sit out, and I don't know how to fix that. Honestly, I know why they didn't ship these switch pieces with the switch and the faux switch already installed for you. In case you wanted your switch up here instead of down here, you wouldn't have to twist the wires around. But I really think they should have that as that should be an option on the site. You should be able to say, I want this hole for my primary switch. I want this hole I want this one to be the do nothing switch. Or if they ever go advanced and add an auxiliary switch or kill key, I want that to be my aux switch or kill key. Another thing, right now this saber is dead. The batteries, because this saber does not have a kill key, the battery's always live as long as it's in the chassis, and that necessitated me basically buying a spare battery. I don't know any way around this. I thought I did because at one point I disconnected the chassis from the switch and LED modules and connected the pins, which whenever those were originally removed from each other, it led to the boot up sound for the SaberForge Viridian soundboard. But that battery still went dead, so obviously that is not a way to kill the power. Basically, the only way I can think of to kill the power in this saber is to take the battery out. The reason I started this review with the dead battery in it is I want to show off one other slight feature that I don't know if it's something SaberForge intended or if it's just poor design. But let me show you what I'm talking about. Unscrew the pommel. Set that to the side. And you can see the chassis in the bottom here. Now, normally, you would just thunk and the battery would come out, but the CoverTech knob, the screw goes into the saber enough that it prevents the chassis from moving at all, either up or down or side to side. So, in order for me to remove the chassis, I have to unscrew this. Now, I don't know if that's intentional. It may be intended to hold the chassis in place so it doesn't slide around whenever you're messing with your saber. If that's the case, brilliant. I would have liked to have known that I needed to unscrew this, but I'll take it as a mulligan. If that wasn't intentional, then what the heck? But anyways, take the chassis out. And another thing, that this being the first saber that I've had with a rechargeable battery, I did not know about pushing the battery up through this thing. So first time I was changing this battery out, it took me forever to figure out that I was doing it wrong. Okay. Set that to the side. Put another battery in, and you probably won't hear the boot up sound because with the speaker out of the Saber, out of the resonating chamber, it's not very loud. It's there, but it's not very loud. Put the Velcro to hold the battery in place. And reinsert the chassis. Screw down the pommel. And re-tighten the cover take knob. Now before I go further, we'll go over the basic design of the Saber. Give you a close-up. This is naturally something I made using the available parts, and it's very easy for me to find multiple places to grip, which is nice. I like that. The only thing is, you will notice the emitter is slightly off kilter from the basically center line of the Saber as I intended it to be. That's something that really can't be helped. I tried different combinations of the little shims that SaberForge sends that are intended to help you align the parts the way you want it. I tried every combination and could not make it work. Just could not make it work. It's also actually slightly different from how I originally designed it. Originally, the control box here was going to line up with one of the grips, and this part would be turned all the way around. But as I was building it, this came together and it felt a lot more natural. As I said, this has a SaberForge Viridium soundboard and a cyan LED. So let's fire it up real quick. Oop. It is very, very bright, as you can tell. Let me see if I can show you the blade plug pattern. Kinda, sorta. It's a very neat pattern, and if shown on a dark wall, unlike the, well, no, not even close to like this one, but if shown on a dark wall, it has a really neat pattern. Swings and clashes, the sensitivity of which are all adjustable. Shut that off and get a blade installed. I'm sorry, my nose was itching there for a second. This is a blade plug. Like I said, they have different ones available for you whenever you're designing your Saber. I picked this one, and I was shocked whenever I figured out that all of the outlying notches lined up exactly with the holes already in the emitter. Lucky, I guess. I inadvertently chose a 32-inch blade, so it's technically a shorter saber, but because SaberForge likes these big, thick-walled blades, it actually feels much better than if it were a full-length blade. Not coming loose. And there it is with the blade installed. It is extremely bright all the way to the tip. It does have a flare up at the end, but that's going to happen, I think, with pretty much any in-hilt LED, no matter what someone tells you. Was wobbling around a little bit, but I think it'll be alright for the video's purpose. Another thing that SaberForge sent for Kickstarter backers is you got an extra part. And I honestly wanted another emitter because there was another one that I thought looked really cool. But pretty much everyone ended up with one of these. No idea what it is? Let me show you. Take your pommel off. Take this end. I can get it to line up properly. There we go. Screw that into the bottom of your saber. Take your pommel and screw it in here. And you have yourself basically a short spear or a pike. Obviously you would need more than one of these to make it the actual length of a spear, and probably a much shorter blade. As you can see, this would be a lot longer than your normal spear. But I found it to be quite interesting. It's not unwieldy. As you can see, good grip coverage. And something I find interesting is if you listen closely, the sound is somewhat deeper because of the, I guess, the longer resonance chamber. So I found that to be quite interesting. It makes it have a different personality whenever you've got the pike attachment involved. Now I've got a couple of sabers here to compare it with. Let me get rid of that. Here I've got the SaberForge Prodigal Son, which is essentially the Luke Skywalker saber from Return of the Jedi. Not a bad saber, but I also wouldn't go dueling with it either. The neck, I haven't experienced it, thankfully, but I have heard stories about it shattering. And because of where they put the LED, and the fact that this is, the thin neck basically is hollowed out enough to allow a good amount of light through from the LED that's in this part. So I can sort of see why. This is literally not for dueling. I would not take this out for dueling no matter what. This one I might. This one seems a lot more sturdy. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not a duelist. Take the blade for this one. Push it in. I'm not going to tighten the blade retention screw because I don't know if it's just the inner diameter hugging the hilt extension, but this blade doesn't seem to go anywhere unless I forcibly pull it out. So, yay. Let me take the kill key out.
SaberForge Prodigal.
And that's the boot up sound for the Saber Core Viridian, which you may or may not have heard whenever I plugged the battery back into this bad boy. I believe this has a pretty much full charge. This one is not as bright. I don't know if it's the blade, but switch this one on. This one drowns this sucker out. Especially whenever you get towards the ends of the blades. The ASP saber is almost consistent all the way to the end. This one fades out towards the end of the saber. I have tried this with a different blade, a Vader's Vault, and it looks better. So it may just be this blade. For some reason I'm looking at it and it looks like I may have messed up the film in this one, so I don't know. I may try and get a new blade for this at some point in the future. But and the sounds are slightly different, but it is the same sound font. And like that, you can see that the cyan is overpowering the regular green, which technically should not happen because this is technically two different colors mixed into one, whereas this is a single color. The other saber I have here, I actually have no idea if this is fully charged or not. I'm going to hope that it's at least close to fully charged. This is a MachinedFX Starkiller. I got this sucker way back whenever the guy first made them, and it sucked balls. And I'm not going to lie, it sucked balls. The electronics were horrible. I'm not an electronics person, and I could tell that it wasn't done well. It was done horribly. It came with, rather than your typical polycarbonate blade, it came with a clear plastic tube. It sucked. This sucker has been rewired, given a new crystal chamber, a new pommel, a recharge port, and sound, because the original saber didn't come with sound, all courtesy of Vader's Vault. That's also where I got this blade. Please work. Yeah, this is not even at full brightness. I can tell just by looking at it. But that's okay, I just want a comparison with this sucker. Yeah, this drowns this out. But I guarantee you if this sucker had a full charge, it would be at least as bright as this one. Basically, Vader's Vault took this saber and made it from one of the dimmest in my collection to one of the brightest. The only problem is it still uses the same switch, which gets a little finicky whenever the battery's near dying. But so far, despite a few problems in construction, I really love this saber. It feels good in the hands. I love the fact that I put it together myself, so it feels like something I made. And the design turned out to be really elegant, and the blade color is just beautiful. I mean, who needs a puny old blue whenever you got something like that? That's pretty much all I got to say on this one. I also supported Hampton's Handcrafted Lightsabers OTS line, which is kind of a similar concept of selecting different parts and then putting them together to build your own lightsaber. I also ordered a Vader's Vault TFA Graflex. So as those come in, I will do a couple more reviews on those. Especially the Hamptons, since there were like 1,000 or so backers for the ASP line. There were a fraction of that for Hamptons, so there's not going to be that many unboxing videos of that or reviews or anything like that, so I'm definitely going to do one. And I'm not saying that you should choose one over the other. I say go for both. If you prefer building something out of parts from a custom saber shop, do that too. Do whatever you want. The more unique lightsabers there are out there, I think the better off the community is. That's not to say that someone might not hit on the exact same design as me, but I kind of hope not. But that is my review of my custom SaberForge ASP Saber, which I don't know if I mentioned it, but I dubbed this one Balance, mainly because of the blue-green of the blade. I know it sounds silly, but hey, what the heck. Alright, well, that's about all I've got for this one. I shall see you guys on the next review.